Jesus Christ. David, what did I just see you doing with my wife? How can my own blood do this to me?
Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet, his chest constricted, his vision blurred. But before we understand the full weight of this betrayal, we need to go back. We need to see how Marcus ended up at this devastating moment. Marcus had always lived in David's shadow. Growing up in their modest home in Surulere, Lagos, everything David touched turned to gold. He was the brilliant one, the charming one, the one their parents paraded at family gatherings. This is David, our firstborn. He's going to be somebody great one day. Their mother would beam with pride, her hand resting on David's shoulder like he was a trophy. And Marcus was just there. While David breezed through school with effortless ease, Marcus struggled through late-night study sessions just to get B's. While David commanded attention in every room he entered, Marcus learned to blend into the background, to be content with being invisible. While David went to the UK for university on a full scholarship, Marcus attended a local polytechnic and worked part-time as a security guard to pay his fees. But Marcus never complained. He never let bitterness take root in his heart. He believed in hard work. He believed that if you put your head down, stayed focused, and pushed through, life would eventually reward you. That's what his father had told him before he died. Work hard, Marcus. Your time will come. By the time Marcus was 28 years old, David was already working in a tech empire. His place of work, Transcorp Tech Solutions, was worth billions of naira. He lived in a penthouse in Ikoyi with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lagoon, drove a Range Rover and a Mercedes, and his face was on the cover of business magazines. People whispered his name with admiration at parties. He was the success story everyone wanted to be. Marcus, on the other hand, worked as a mid-level accountant in a logistics firm in Ikuya. His salary was decent, nothing to brag about, nothing to be ashamed of either, but enough to pay rent for a modest 2-bedroom flat, put food on the table, and save a little each month. He drove a second-hand Toyota Corolla that broke down more often than it should, but he was proud of it. It was his. He married Sofia when he was 29. She was a beautiful woman with smooth, dark skin, bright eyes that sparkled when she laughed, and a smile that could light up a room. They had met at a friend's wedding in Lekki, and Marcus had fallen for her instantly. She was everything he wasn't: outgoing, vibrant, full of life and energy. When she walked into a room, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. At first, their marriage was sweet. They cooked together on weekends, laughed at silly jokes, stayed up late talking about their dreams and plans for the future. Marcus worked hard to provide for her, to give her the life she deserved. He wanted her to be proud of him, even if he wasn't David, even if he couldn't afford to take her on trips to Dubai or buy her designer bags. But over time, things began to change. Slowly, quietly, like water eroding stone. Marcus's job became more demanding. His boss, a stern man named Mr. Adebayo, started piling on extra assignments, audits, reports that needed to be finished by morning, and Marcus, eager to prove himself, eager to climb the ladder and provide more for Sofia, accepted them all. He worked late nights, sometimes not leaving the office until 10 p.m. He came home exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open, and collapsed into bed without a word. Sofia noticed. At first, she tried to be understanding. "You are working so hard, baby," she would say, rubbing his shoulders as he sat hunched over his laptop at the dining table. "Just don't forget about me, okay?" Marcus would kiss her forehead and promise, "I'm doing this for us. Just a little while longer and things will get better." But the promises began to feel empty, hollow, like words with no meaning. Dinners became cold and lonely. Sofia would set the table for two,
Jollof rice, fried plantains, chicken, and wait. But Marcus wouldn't come home until she was already asleep, the food wrapped in foil and left on the counter. Their conversations became shorter, more transactional, stripped of warmth. Did you pay the NEPA bill? Yes. Okay. What about the water? Done. Okay. And that was it. No how was your day, no I missed you, just logistics and bills and silence. The warmth between them started to fade, replaced by a cold, growing distance that neither of them knew how to bridge. One evening, Marcus couldn't take it anymore. Marcus had just walked in at 10 p.m., tie loosened, eyes bloodshot from staring at spreadsheets all day. His shirt was wrinkled and he smelled like coffee and stress. Sofia was sitting on the couch, arms folded across her chest, her face unreadable. She said, "We need to talk." Her voice was quiet but firm. Marcus sighed, dropping his bag by the door. "Can it wait? I'm really tired, Sofia." "No," she said, standing up. "It can't." He sat down reluctantly, rubbing his temples. His head was pounding.
Sofia looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Do you even remember the last time we spent real time together? The last time we just talked or laughed or went somewhere nice?" Marcus frowned, trying to think. When was the last time? A month ago? 2 months? "Sofia, I'm working. I'm trying to build something for us, for our future." "For us?" she repeated, her voice breaking. "Marcus, I'm lonely. I miss you. I miss us. I miss the way you used to look at me, the way we used to hold each other." She paused, swallowing hard. "I miss you in bed too. It's been weeks, Marcus. Weeks." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm tired, Sofia. Can't you understand that? I'm exhausted." "I'm tired too," she shot back, her voice rising. "I'm tired of feeling like I don't matter anymore. I'm tired of being alone in this marriage." Marcus stood up, frustration boiling over. "I'm doing everything I can. I'm killing myself at that office so we can have a better life. What more do you want from me?" Sofia stared at him, her face crumpling. "I want my husband back," she whispered. But Marcus didn't respond. He just shook his head, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door behind him. And that night, as Sofia sat alone in the living room, something inside her began to crack. The next morning, at work, Marcus couldn't focus. His mind kept replaying the argument. Her face, her tears, the way she had said, "I want my husband back." Maybe he had been too harsh. Maybe he should have listened instead of getting defensive. Around noon, he picked up his phone and called Sofia. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. A note of worry formed in his chest. He called 2 more times. Each time, it went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. What if something was wrong? What if she was hurt? What if she had left home? He scrolled through his contacts and stopped at David's name. His brother lived in Ikoyi, not too far from their flat in Yaba. Maybe he could check on her, just to make sure she was all right. Marcus dialed. "Little bro?" David answered smoothly, his voice rich and confident. "What's up?" "David, can you do me a favor? I can't reach Sofia and I'm worried. Can you go check on her, just to make sure she's all right?" There was a pause on the other end. "Sure, I'm not far from your area right now. I'll head over now." "Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I owe you." "No problem. That's what brothers are for." Marcus hung up, relief washing over him. David was dependable. He always had been. Despite their differences, despite the shadow Marcus had always lived in, David had never been cruel. He had always helped when Marcus needed him. When David arrived at Marcus's apartment, he knocked gently on the door. "Sofia, it's David. Marcus asked me to check on you."
The door opened slowly, and Sofia stood there in a loose t-shirt and shorts, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked small, fragile, like a wounded bird. "Hey," he said softly, his expression immediately shifting to concern. "You okay?" She shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. He hesitated only for a moment before stepping inside and closing the door behind him. What happened? Sofia sat down on the couch, pulling her knees to her chest and wrapping her arms around herself. "Marcus and I had a quarrel, a really bad one. I don't know what to do anymore, David. I feel so alone." David sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. He wasn't sure what to say, so he just listened. And Sofia talked. She poured out everything: the loneliness, the silence, the feeling of being invisible in her own home. She told him how Marcus had dismissed her concerns, how she felt like she didn't matter anymore, how she couldn't remember the last time her husband had looked at her with love in his eyes. David listened quietly, his expression sympathetic. He nodded in the right places, his eyes never leaving her face. "I know Marcus," David said finally, his voice gentle. "He's stubborn, and he gets so focused on work that he forgets everything else. But he loves you, Sofia. I know he does. He's trying so hard to prove himself. He's always been like that, always trying to catch up, to be enough." Sofia looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "Do you really think he still cares?" "I know he does," David said, and he meant it. "He just doesn't know how to show it right now." Sofia wiped her eyes, managing a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, David, for listening, for being here." "Anytime," he said, standing up. "You'll be all right. Just give him some time. He'll come around." Days turned into weeks, and Marcus continued to drown himself in work. The distance between him and Sofia only grew wider. She tried to adjust, to accept her loneliness, but the ache inside her only deepened. One afternoon, feeling trapped in the empty apartment with nothing but her thoughts, she picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Her finger hovered over Marcus's name, but she knew calling him would be pointless. He'd just say he was busy. He'd promised to come home early and then break that promise like he always did. Instead, she scrolled down and stopped at David's name. She stared at it for a long moment. Then before she could talk herself out of it, she pressed call. "Hey," he answered after 2 rings. "Everything okay?" She hesitated. "I needed someone to talk to. Are you free?" There was a brief pause. "Yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. When David arrived, he brought takeout: jollof rice, fried chicken, moi moi, and a warm smile. They sat on the couch eating and talking about everything and nothing. For the first time in weeks, Sofia felt like she could breathe. She felt like someone actually cared. "You know," David said, looking at her carefully, "you deserve to be happy, Sofia." Sofia looked down at her plate, her throat tightening. "I thought I was. You still can be." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world fell away. The air between them felt charged, electric. "Want to watch something?" David asked, breaking the tension. "Sure." They scrolled through Netflix, settling on a romantic comedy. As the movie played, they sat closer than they should have. Sofia's shoulder brushed against David's. His hand rested near hers on the couch, so close she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. And then, without thinking, their fingers touched and their lips were close to each other. The contact sent a jolt through both of them. Sofia pulled back immediately, her heart racing. I'm sorry." "No," David said, his voice tight. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." You should go, Sofia whispered, her voice shaking. David left stood, his hands trembling as he closed the door behind him. But the damage was already done. The spark had been lit, and it was only a matter of time before it turned into a flame. After that day, everything changed. Sofia couldn't stop thinking about David, the way he listened, the way he made her feel important, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. It was intoxicating. And David couldn't stop thinking about her either. He tried to stay away. He told himself it was wrong, that Marcus was his brother, that this was a line that should never be crossed. But every time his phone buzzed with a message from her, his resolve crumbled a little more. They started texting. Innocent at first, just checking in, asking how each other's day went. But soon, the messages became longer, deeper, more intimate. I can't stop thinking about you. I know, me too. This is wrong. I know. But I don't want to stop. Marcus noticed Sofia was always on her phone, smiling at the screen in a way she hadn't smiled at him in months. "Who are you always chatting with?" he asked one evening, glancing over from where he was reviewing documents on his laptop. "Just my bestie from university." Sofia locked her phone and placed it face down on the table. "We are planning a small reunion." Marcus nodded, satisfied with the answer. He trusted her. It never even crossed his mind that she might be lying. But the truth was far darker. Sofia and David began meeting when Marcus was at work. At first, they told themselves they were just friends, just two people who enjoyed each other's company. But friends don't look at each other the way they did. Friends don't hold hands across the table in quiet cafes in Lekki. Friends don't kiss in the front seat of a packed car while the rain pours down around them. And soon, they crossed the line completely. David's penthouse became their secret haven. Sofia would lie to Marcus, saying she was going to the market or visiting a friend or attending a church program. Instead, she would spend hours in David's arms, losing herself in a world where she wasn't forgotten, where she wasn't invisible. David was everything Marcus wasn't: attentive, affectionate, and present. He remembered small details about her day. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He touched her like she was precious, like she mattered. Being with him felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. And the worst part, Marcus still didn't suspect a thing. He was too consumed by work, too focused on climbing the corporate ladder to notice that his wife was slipping away from him into the arms of his own brother.
Ironically, things at Marcus's job started to improve. His boss, Mr. Adebayo, began assigning him fewer late-night projects. The workload lightened, deadlines became more reasonable. Marcus was thrilled. Finally, he thought, finally he could spend time with Sofia again. Finally he could fix what he'd broken. He could be the husband she needed. One evening he came home early, excited to surprise her. He'd even stopped at the market to buy ingredients for her favorite meal, egusi soup with pounded yam. "Sofia," he called out as he entered the apartment, bags in hand. "Guess what? I'm home early, and I brought—" He stopped when he saw her on the couch, looking distracted. "Hey," she said, barely glancing up from her phone. "I thought we could cook together tonight," Marcus said, smiling, "like we used to. And then maybe after dinner we could do in bed." He let the suggestion hang in the air, his eyes hopeful. Sofia's expression shifted. She set her phone down slowly. "Marcus, I'm not in the mood." His smile faltered. "But I said you never have time for me. Now I do. I'm here. I'm trying." "I'm tired, Marcus." "Tired?" He stared at her, confusion and hurt swelling in his chest. "Sofia, I don't understand. You said I don't give you attention. You said you miss me. Now I'm here and you're pushing me away. What do you women really want?"
Sofia didn't answer. She couldn't, because the truth was lodged in her throat like a stone. She didn't want Marcus anymore. She wanted David. Marcus turned away, his shoulders sagging. He dropped the grocery bags on the counter and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. And Sofia picked up her phone and texted David. "I miss you." She was no longer feeling Marcus anymore. Then came a Thursday afternoon, around 3 p.m. Marcus had left work early again, eager to tell Sofia the good news. Mr. Adebayo had officially adjusted his schedule. From now on, Marcus would be home by 6 p.m. every day. They could finally have their evenings together. They could finally rebuild what they'd lost. He drove home with a lightness in his chest he hadn't felt in months. He parked his Toyota in the small lot outside their building, grabbed his briefcase, and bounded up the stairs 2 at a time. He walked into the apartment, calling out, "Sofia, babe, I'm home." No response. He walked towards the living room, but she wasn't there. The TV was off. The kitchen was empty. Then he heard it. Sounds, muffled, coming from the bedroom. His heart stopped. He moved closer, each step heavier than the last. His mind racing in denial. Maybe she was on the phone. Maybe she was watching something. Maybe... The sounds became clearer. Moaning, gasping, the unshakable rhythm of intimacy, the creak of the bed, a man's voice low and breathless. His hand shook as he reached for the doorknob. "Please, God," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Please let me be wrong." But when he opened the door, his worst nightmare became reality. Sofia and David, together, in his bed. The bed he had saved for. The bed where he had held her on their wedding night. The bed where they had promised forever. For a moment, time stopped. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think. Then the scream tore out of him. "Jesus Christ! What are you doing to my wife?" They scrambled apart, panic flooding their faces. Sofia pulled the sheet over herself, her face pale with shock. "Marcus," she began, her voice trembling. "Of all people," Marcus roared, "my own blood is doing this to me, my brother." David stood up, trying to pull on his trousers, his hands shaking. "Marcus, listen." "Don't," Marcus shouted. "Don't you dare try to explain this." Tears streamed down Sofia's face. "Marcus, please, we can what?" Marcus screamed. "Explain, talk about it, fix it." But Marcus couldn't hear them anymore. His mind was a storm of rage, pain, betrayal. The 2 people he had trusted most in the world had destroyed him. He spotted Sofia's phone on the nightstand, the screen still lit up with a message. Without a word, he grabbed it and stormed out of the apartment, ignoring their desperate calls behind him. Marcus sat in his car in the parking lot, his hands trembling violently as he unlocked Sofia's phone. He knew her password. She'd never hidden it from him. Why would she? He trusted her. What a fool he had been. He opened her messages and found the chat with David. Hundreds of messages, maybe thousands. "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. I love the way you touched me. Does he suspect anything?" "No, he's too busy with work to notice." Marcus' chest tightened with each message. His vision blurred with tears. They were laughing at him, planning around him, using him. He scrolled further back. Photos, intimate photos, videos. His stomach turned. But then something cold settled over him. Something dark. Something final.
He took screenshots of everything, every message, every photo, every lie. Then he opened his email and found the contact information for David's boss, a man named Mr. Okuru, whom Marcus had met once at a corporate event David had invited him to. He attached the screenshots and typed, "Dear Mr. Okuru, this is Marcus. I thought you should know that one of your top executives, David, is a cheat and a homewrecker who destroyed his own brother's marriage. I believe a man of such low character does not deserve to represent your company. Please see the attached evidence." He hit send without hesitation. Next, he called a lawyer, a colleague's wife who specialized in family law. "I want to file for divorce," he said, his voice hollow, "on immediate grounds of adultery." "I'm sorry, Marcus," she said gently. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Within hours, the process had begun. Within days, the fallout was catastrophic. David's boss, Mr. Okoro, fired him on the spot. The company couldn't afford to keep someone with such a scandal attached to their name, especially not in a position of leadership. His reputation, carefully built over years, crumbled overnight. Business partners distanced themselves. Friends stopped calling. His face disappeared from the magazines. Sofia begged Marcus to forgive her. She called, texted, showed up at his new apartment, a small studio he'd rented across town. She cried, pleaded, said she was sorry, that she had made a mistake, that she still loved him. But Marcus refused to even look at her. When she came to the door, he didn't open it. When she called, he blocked her number. The divorce was finalized within 3 months. Sofia got nothing. The infidelity clause made sure of that. And David, Marcus never spoke to him again. He blocked his number, refused to attend family gatherings if David was there, and erased him from his life completely. His mother called, begging Marcus to forgive his brother, to remember that family was everything. But Marcus's response was cold and final. He stopped being my brother the moment he touched my wife. Sofia tried to stay with David, thinking that at least she'd have him. But David, stripped of his job and humiliated publicly, wanted nothing to do with her. He blamed her for ruining his life, for being the temptation he couldn't resist. Within weeks, he kicked her out of his penthouse. She had lost everything: her marriage, her home, her dignity, and the man she thought loved her. Marcus sat alone in his small studio apartment, staring out the window at the Lagos skyline. The city lights twinkled below, indifferent to the pain of one man. He had won, hadn't he? He had gotten his revenge. David had lost everything. Sofia had been left with nothing. Justice had been served. But as Marcus looked around at his empty living room, no photos on the walls, no laughter echoing through the halls, no warmth, he realized something that settled in his chest like a heavy stone. Victory felt a lot like loneliness, and revenge, no matter how justified, no matter how deserved, couldn't heal the hole they had left in his heart. He picked up his phone and scrolled through old photos. Pictures of him and Sofia on their wedding day, smiling like they had the whole world ahead of them. Pictures of family gatherings where David had his arm around Marcus's shoulder, grinning at the camera. All of it felt like a lifetime ago. A different world, a different Marcus. He set the phone down and closed his eyes. Winning, he realized, didn't feel like winning at all. It just felt like suffering.
What would you do if your own brother or sister would take away your partner from you? Let me know in the comments. Also, was David truly a victim of temptation, or he was always waiting for a chance to take what belonged to Marcus? Did Marcus love too hard, or did he hide behind "I'm doing it for us" while neglecting the one person he was fighting for? And Sofia, was she lonely, or she was simply looking for who could satisfy her most? Drop your answers in the comments. I want to know what you think. Don't forget to hit subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Because honestly, only someone who secretly supports cheating on their partner would finish a story like this and still refuse to subscribe.